Aloha and welcome to Better Government, broadcasting from your Hawaii state capital. I'm Representative Gene Ward, and we have a topic of not only immediate but very, very serious relevance. Before we went on air, someone said we're going to go nuclear today. And I have two experts to talk about the nuclear issue, energy generation. The first expert is Senator Fred Hemmings.
Hey.
Senator, welcome. And
thank you.
You are the Senate Minority Leader. You are a world champion surfer, and you're an energy expert. We look forward to your views because I know you've got some things to show us, and you've done a lot of research.
I have done a lot of work. Look forward to talking with you, Gene.
The second expert is J. Fidell, local attorney, journalist, a columnist in the Advertiser. And Jay, I thought before we jump into this very controversial subject, how did you go from law to high-tech to nuclear? Just a little bit more background. We know about Fred a lot. People know about me a bit. But Jay, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got involved in this.
These things don't happen overnight, you know. So it'll take me a long time to explain. Suffice to say that when the Apple came out in the 70s, my buddy and I went and we bought apples and we learned how to program. And that distinguished us from most other people. And that programming sort of took me into tech.
So you fell in love with technology, you got involved, you started writing, researching.
Yeah.
And now you're an expert on nuclear energy.
Well, I've read some, having been encouraged to do so by Senator Hemmings.
And the first question, gentlemen, is why now? I mean, nuclear energy has been around for years. Why now? What's going on in Hawaii? Why do we need to pay attention to this topic?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why now. First answer to that is why not? The reasons for it are numerous. Timing is much to do with a lot we do in life. Now is the time, and here are several reasons why. We've been talking about sustainability for the last several years. It seems like the term du jour. We have to sustain ourselves here in Hawaii. Hawaii has never been more vulnerable. Energy-wise, we get 93% of our energy from fossil fuel. This is environmentally very bad for the environment. We would be in dire straits if we had ever had a cutoff of oil or coal to Hawaii. We're 93% dependent on outside sources for our energy. We're dependent for our food and for our very ability to survive in case of some sort of shipping cutoff. So Hawaii definitely needs to start thinking about sustainability or independence. Energy independence makes a lot of sense, and now is the time when nuclear energy in this 21st century of technology is coming into worldwide prominence and acceptance. Environmentalists are starting to realize, I don't want to say environmentalists, extremists who in the past have been opposed to nuclear energy are finding out that it is clean, it is safe, it is green, it is renewable, it is reliable, and best of all, it can help solve a whole host of problems, everything from economic to the environment. So now is the time for Hawaii to really start looking honestly at the possibility of utilizing nuclear energy in this state for the betterment of our society.
Jay, I don't speak German, but I love the term Zeitgeist. Is this the time and the spirit for us to jump in to get nuclear energy on the table, or at least to discuss it?
Yeah, we're forming up our array of alternative energies, our renewables. We're looking at half a dozen anyway. We're trying to make a plan to go forward. We're trying to reserve a spot for the ones that will be successful. Not all of them will be. And it's really incumbent upon us to include all the ones that have promise, and nuclear energy definitely has promise. When you compare the cost, and we'll talk more about this Toshiba microcomputer, but just looking at that, because on that you can see it at a scale where it relates to what we do. In other words, if I tell you that $20 million is going to buy you, 30 megawatts or 50 megawatts for 30 years, you can do the math. And actually, the cost of that nuclear reactor would probably be cheaper over that 30-year period than the cost of a lot of the other renewables.
Oh, way cheaper.
Way cheaper.
Oh, Jay, the numbers are staggering. First of all, we have to establish where we're at here in Hawaii, Gene. We suffer from the most expensive electric prices at a state level in the nation. At the height of the fuel crisis, Gene, and people of Hawaii, you're going to be astounded at this because everybody here at the legislature for a number of years liked to call the culprit in the energy marketplace was the big bad oil companies. Well, in August of 2008 was the height of the fuel crisis when gas was prohibitively expensive. Compared to the national average at that time, in August of 2008, the fuel crisis, the price of gasoline was about 40% above the national average. The price of electricity was an astounding 190% above the national average at around 35 cents a kilowatt hour statewide. That is prohibitively expensive, and people just don't realize it because they get their electric bill and they realize a small household of 2 or 3 people is paying $350, $400 a month for electricity. It's just a backbreaking cost, and it does not need to be. So one of the things that nuclear energy can do, because it's sustainable and reliable and is not subject to the vagrancies of foreign markets, especially the oil market, we can get electricity delivered in Hawaii between 10 and 15 cents a kilowatt hour, which would cut our electric bills in half, besides giving us total energy independence. There are a whole host of reasons why we should really be looking at nuclear energy. And first and foremost, and this is, Gene and Jay, you and I both know, if tomorrow you said you were going to walk down Bishop Street and hand out $100 bills, there'd be someone to protest it. So I want to say to all the people out there that are going to protest nuclear energy, you've been doing it for 30 years, and it is hypocrisy. And here's why. We already have 10, 12, 15 nuclear reactors in Hawaii.
The ones that are under the water and
they're called nuclear submarines. We've already got it
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Why can't we use the same technology, which is clean and safe? They've never had an accident. Why can't we use the same technology for the betterment of Hawaii? We've already got it here.
Well, Fred, I thought I would start up before the environmentalists change channels and stop listening to us. Starting out with the cost advantages. You said that we are at about 30 to 35 cents per kilowatt hour.
At the peak,
At the peak.
when fuel crisis
But right
escalated.
now, I think Kauai's at 32 cents. Oahu's at about 25 cents a kilowatt.
Yeah,
I went
that's-
and looked at the website, HECO website, and there's a whole chart. There's a matrix of all the prices in all the islands, and it runs from early, middle, or low 20s, which is not very low, to a top of 52 cents per kilowatt hour in the state of Hawaii,
but Gene, you have
depending
to-
on where you are.
All things are relative, and you have to compare that to the national average, which is 10 to 12 cents a kilowatt hour. So we are paying an extraordinary price besides vulnerability. And what's really sad about it, Gene, is, there's an old adage in forensic anything, in forensic science, in forensic medicine, in forensic law, follow the money. Forensic politics. And the money we in America are spending, 30% of our fossil fuel costs are going to nation states that are fighting a war against us, or at least some of their people are. A lot of it's going to the Mideast nations, and we're underwriting in a roundabout way the very war against us by Islamic extremists. That money ends up in the wrong hands, and we're fighting a war. Oftentimes it's funded with our own dollars. We're spending a huge amount of money sending it to the Middle East to collect oil. And by the way, I am a conservationist. I am an environmentalist, but I'm also pro-American in common sense. And this has nothing to do with being anti-environment. Nuclear energy is very, very much a pro-environment. Less people, no one's ever died of nuclear energy. More people die of coal mined accidents and coal mine related diseases like black lung that have died in 1 year than have died in the history of nuclear energy in America, because no one's ever died of it.